Hey y'all, welcome back to Rob Squad and the creators. Like always, you're here with your girl Amber.
And your boy Jay, and we are back with another episode of Inside the Reactions with our resident music expert. I'm not even going to say our resident, I'm going to say our best friend music expert, Mr. Tim Sommer. Tim, you opened up our world to Taylor Swift, but today you have an artist she name checked. Who is that going to be?
That's going to be Patti Smith, who is mentioned in the Taylor Swift song Tortured Poets Department. Yeah. Now, I want you to think of something. Because of the Beatles, many of us learned about artists like Chuck Berry or Little Richard. Mm-hmm. Maybe the Rolling Stones turned people on to Bo Diddley or Buddy Holly. Maybe David Bowie turned people on to the work of Brian Eno or Kraftwerk. There's a long tradition of musicians using their own music to turn their fans onto their favorite musicians. Taylor Swift is continuing in that tradition. She mentions the singer, songwriter, and poet Patti Smith, who is a legendary figure in the music community, in the arts community, and the poetry community. She was a poet long before she was a singer and a songwriter. She was a published poet in the late 1960s and early 1970s. She didn't make a record until 1975. Wow. And I'll tell you something about Patti Smith, and usually I don't go on a limb and offer too much of my own opinion to you guys. There are very few people who've made pop records that I would actually label geniuses.
Wow.
One of those people is Patti Smith. She has such a magical gift with words and a magical gift with using rock and roll to communicate a feeling and using her own words to communicate the feeling of rock and roll. She reaches into her own heart to bring us something that is almost primitive, that really respects the rawest feelings of rock and roll and brings it into the studio, brings it into her own words. And she's been making music and releasing records for 50 years. And obviously it touched something in Taylor Swift as well, because she name checks her on the title cut of her last record.
I laughed in your face and said, you're not Dylan Thomas, I'm not Patti Smith.
Tortured Poets Department. Yeah. She was a poet in the 60s. I love that she started off as a poet, and then music obviously transcended from there.
And it's like you read my mind, because I was going to ask, what is it that makes Patti Smith such an icon? But you literally just dropped it. And then I was going to ask you another question, like kind of what's the connection between them? And you answered that one too. It's kind of their way with words.
And Taylor Swift is far from the first major musician to say that Patti Smith changed their lives. U2 are huge Patti Smith fans. Wow. Michael Stipe of R.E.M. is a huge Patti Smith fan. Even Bob Dylan has said that Patti Smith was very important to him, even though, of course, he came well before Patti Smith. And what's interesting about the song we are going to hear today, People Have the Power, it was released at a time in 1988, 1 year before Taylor Swift was born, by the way. It was released in 1988 after Patti Smith had been retired for 10 years.
Wow.
Patti Smith, in 1979, Patti Smith voluntarily sort of just took herself out of the picture to get married, to raise a family. And then in 1988, after 10 years out of the picture, she came back with this song, People Have the Power.
So she kind of just wanted to disappear for a little bit, live the normal life, have a family.
That's right. She really did live a normal life. She really sort of said, I am now going to become I don't use this word derogatorily at all. I want to say that in advance. She said, I'm now going to become a housewife. Mm-hmm. I'm going to leave the business. I'm going to raise my children. I'm going to support my husband. Her husband, by the way, who is no longer with us, was a very famous musician named Fred Smith, who is in one of the legendary rock and roll bands of all time called the MC5. But anyway, Patti Smith left the business for 10 years, and this was her comeback song.
Wow. I couldn't imagine at the peak, and like you said, just a genius with words, a rock and roll icon, and she's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go away for a little bit.
That's what she did.
But I mean, it's understandable though. Right. I'm sure anyone who is just idolized and is such a public figure as her probably just wants to disappear and live normal for a while.
What I think is so cool about what you said is bands like U2, who, when I think of music and I think musical genius right there. When we talk about U2, when you said REM, I think that they have this way of hitting your heart with their lyrics. It's such an emotional experience. And then Bob Dylan, of course, is a poet. So for her to kind of have all of those three artists, creatives that kind of looked up to her, it makes sense because in their music, there's different parts that we love that it sounds like she obviously had in her music as well.
And obviously she touched a chord with Taylor Swift as well.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift is saying, I love music. I love the world of music. I want you to join me. You are my friend. And what do we do with our friends? We sit our friends down and say, oh my God, you have to hear this song. And that's what Taylor Swift did in Tortured Poets Department by mentioning Patti Smith.
That is absolutely fantastic. Well, we're ready to jump right into it. Guys, make sure y'all like the video, hit subscribe, and turn on that post notification bell so you never miss a video. We're ready to check out some Patti Smith. People have the power. Let's check it out. Like usually I'm usually jamming out to something like this, but because like the backstory you gave us, like I'm really focusing on the details. And You're absolutely correct. The way you mentioned, her and the Bob Dylan's, like, there's such a poet, like almost to the extent in this one where it almost feels like very progressive. You know what I'm talking about? Like the stories or the statements we get from one of my favorite bands, Rush. It feels very, very progressive.
It's interesting that a lot of bands have picked up this song as an anthem to perform. Like U2 perform it live sometime, this song. In much the same way that many bands have started performing Neil Young's Rockin' in the Free World. It's considered like it's just a rousing anthem.
I love that you said it felt like an anthem, because in my mind, the words that I had was, it feels like a battle cry, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's like
break free or something.
Right. It's like a rally of the people. And I think it pulls at your heart and it makes you feel that way because of the lyrics that are in it. It's very deep, but she mentioned when the leopard lies with the lamb. She mentioned that how we have the power. She can only dream that we realize that we have the power. And I feel like that's something that we could really think about here, because I think one of the main things in this world has been to divide and conquer. And if we realize that as a collective, like as a whole, that is where the power is at, is with us, is with the people. And if we act with love, we act with kindness, and maybe take in that role, that's why it feels like that battle cry, like, guys, get it together.
And there was a line in the very beginning, just paraphrasing, talking about how, pretty much the people with greed, people with higher ups, they have everyone's ear.
It's interesting. There's some lyrics in this song that almost echo some of the things that Amber says when she signs off this broadcast, when she signs off each episode. Because I think this song is also very much about the connection with God. Mm-hmm. And that's a powerful thing in Patti Smith's life as well. Unlike a lot of rock and roll musicians, unlike a lot of sort of downtown hipster poets, and there's nobody more downtown or hipster than Patti Smith. Unlike a lot of those people, Patti Smith often talks about her connection with God and her connection with religion and her connection with Catholicism. So that's very interesting.
I love that.
I love it.
Some of the references, now that you mentioned that, if we go back and listen, there are a lot more religious references that she did have in there.
Let's get back.
People have the power.
Can you imagine being retired for 10 years and then coming back with this song? How impactful that is.
Also, just listening to it makes you feel unified. It makes you feel like you want to go out there and like you said, how Amber says at the very end of every video, just make somebody smile.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I thought there was a real connection. I really did.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love that with artists like Bob Dylan. A lot of times you are getting fed just beautiful lyrics, and it's not just like repetition, which sometimes is cool. You can zone out and just rock out, listen to the music. But I love when artists have something to say and they don't hold back in saying it. And so when you say like she waited 10 years and then came out and this is the song, I totally get that, because she could have came out with something catchy, something easy, but she came out with like
a statement,
something that made people stop and listen and think. And maybe moved a little bit differently that day or in the future.
Yeah. And she's still, to this day, she's continued working from when she put this back out, ended her retirement in 1989. And you can still see her, and she is still out there.
Awesome.
I think she's in her late 70s now. But she's still out there and playing and putting on ferocious shows where she mixes poetry and she mixes hard rock and she mixes garage rock and she mixes all of these American things and art and primitive rock and roll in one place. And she is still out there doing it. And anyone, if she comes to your town, please see her.
That sounds awesome. I can imagine her still going rocking.
Yep.
No doubt. But Tim, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us again today. As we always
a blessing. Always a blessing to be with you guys.
We love to have you here. As we always send you guys out of here, we love you, we thank you, we appreciate you. And remember, every day that you guys wake up, it is a blessing and that you are blessed. And for your new family members to hit that subscribe button down below, we welcome y'all to the RSR family. But you have a goal every day, just like we do. Let them know.
All right. I hope after we just listen to this song that we carry this goal out throughout the day. But if we can, as a collective, let's go out in this world, put our best foot forward. And if we can, let's spread some light and love and maybe just try to make somebody smile today.
We love y'all. Till next time. We'll see you guys later.
People have the